The ability to have endurance is priceless, not because you can run away from tigers because they run out of energy anyway. What's most important is the endurance from having higher VO2 max reflects itself in your body's ability to remain calm and your body's ability to do the work of maintaining your system. So if you're low energy and you have no endurance or no VO2 max capacity, you're kind of stressed all the time. So I have an expert with me today named Rowena Gates, and she's studied for years cellular optimization, and she works with a company called Eng3 Corporation. They make a device called the Nano V, you've probably seen me using for years now, that has a direct effect on VO2 max. So we're going to go into reactive oxygen species, how these are making you old, and some things you can do about it. Rowena, welcome to the show.
Great to be here. Thanks.
Many listeners know about reactive oxygen species, but I don't think most people really understand them. What is ROS and why do we care?
Well, reactive oxygen species are one type of free radical that you can't avoid because of the oxygen irony, which is you can't live with it forever and you can't live without it for probably 10 minutes. So you need the oxygen, but it's like the exhaust out of a car. To burn the engine, you're going to end up with reactive oxygen species, and they're always going to be either mitigated by an antioxidant or they'll do damage.
I like to think of it as rust. In fact, that is a reactive oxygen species. You put oxygen on iron, you get rust. So your cells aren't made out of iron, at least mostly, but they do have a similar oxidative process. And since all life is based on ox redox, this is how your cells make ATP and electrons, which fuel your longevity. Like, okay, it's a necessary thing. So why would we want to reduce reactive oxygen species? Wouldn't that reduce our energy?
You want to reduce the amount of damage it does. You need the reactive oxygen species. They not only are a damaging byproduct, but they also have a cell signaling function in the body. So you don't want to eliminate them, but you want to reduce the damage that they do. That's where we come in. That's what we're kind of all about.
It's a really important thing to understand in aging. If you take excessive antioxidants, and I've done this very early in my path, and I think, oh, do the same thing as everyone else instead of a personalized approach. What you do is you turn off your ability to improve from exercise because you don't get the benefits of having some free radicals. It's when you get too much, they stick around too long, or when you allow them to do damage. So one of the things that you might do is say, I need antioxidants, and you need some, but if you don't get the benefits of exercise, you broke. And if you don't get enough, you get too much damage. So there are other things you could do, like you could train effectively. And my last book was a lot about how do you raise VO2 max without taking a lot of time, without generating excessive free radicals through excessive exercise. Or you could actually make your cells better at handling reactive oxygen species. And this is where Rowena comes in. So Rowena, how do you do this?
So that's all the cell activities, having everything work better in the cell. And that's where we come in. And we have a very, very fundamental approach to that. With the NanoV device, it influences the environment in the cell, which is the water. And after that, the body takes over. And so it's so fundamental that it doesn't override anything, and the body knows what to do with it when you give it a little extra support. So one of the first things it does is you can measure that improvement in mitochondrial function.
Okay. This is fundamental to human life, and it's missing from most medical knowledge. If you go way back in my journey, there was a time when I said, hey guys, if you take butter and MCT oil and you blend them in coffee, it works really well. If you don't blend them and you just eat the butter and drink the coffee, it doesn't work. And it got to the point where I went really deep on the science because I'm a nerd. And I ended up funding research at the University of Washington. And this is about the structure of water and how it affects cell biology. So inside your cells, the outer layer is a bunch of little tiny droplets of fat. It's your cell membrane. And if you were a plant, it'd be your cell wall. They're slightly different, but some people use both. But in humans, it's a membrane, or in animals. And then inside there, you have a bunch of water and a gel. And what influences the cell's behavior and how effective the cell is the water structured? And you do this with things like sunlight, with things like movement, things like infrared light. And it's profoundly effective. And it turns out that one of the reasons people feel so much different if they take their Danger coffee, which has minerals that affect cell biology, but not reactive oxygen species, and then you put in these types of oils, those oils change the structure of the water when you mix them up. So in a typical day, what your body does, you drink a glass of water. It's regular bulk water that even if it's, special spring water, whatever, your body says, oh, good God, I've got to heat this water up with body heat, hold it up against the cell membrane, and it'll change into something called exclusion zone water. Or there's other delivery systems for exclusion zone water. The more exclusion zone water you have, the better your mitochondrial function and the better your ability to make your own antioxidants goes up. How do you use NanoV to change the structure of water inside my cells?
So you hit it. It's all about exclusion zone water, which only forms on surfaces, which could be the cell membrane, the mitochondria, and especially the proteins. Because in the cell, there might be 10,000 or more proteins in one cell. They're very small, they're all over the place, and they create a lot of surface area. And so if exclusion zone water only forms on surfaces, it forms in layers. Mm-hmm. Then if you can increase that exclusion zone water, which could be through diet, and what you're talking about with the coffee, I know you worked with Jerry Pollack, and he showed that, and he's been a wonderful friend to us as well. Just a wonderful man.
He's the guy who did the research at the University of Washington.
Right. The exclusion zone water, called exclusion zone because everything else is pressed out because the water molecules are so closely packed together that everything else is excluded. And we call that ordered water. And that ordered water surface has to form on proteins. And quite a long time ago, they figured out that it was the water that enabled the proteins to fold, which they have to do before they function. And if you have unfolded or misfolded proteins, you have liabilities. So they have to fold or they can't work, and they get the energy to fold from the water. And so that part was all known in cell biology. And in NanoV, we just leveraged it by helping improve the ordered water in the cells to support the protein folding, and the body takes over. And that's why I said earlier, it's just the environment, it's the water that we're influencing. And after that, the body really does, it knows what to do. It's the most regenerative machine imaginable almost.
You imagine if some of the water in your cells is not exclusion zone water because your body didn't do a good job of converting the water. And there's all kinds of environmental things that lower the amount of this water. You must have this water to make ATP. The Krebs cycle, which was really fundamental to my longevity book and my brain book, actually. I think of it like a little motor. It goes around, but if it's in the wrong fluid, it doesn't have the right amount of viscosity. So you can't make energy. And if you can't make energy, you can't make more exclusion zone water. And if you're low on energy because you're low on exclusion zone water, the body has these things that are necessary to do to stay alive right now. And then it has things that are necessary to do to repair and maintain and extend your longevity. It will automatically stop doing all the maintenance stuff, including folding proteins or repairing proteins, if you don't have enough exclusion zone water. And you look at what does cancer look like? Well, there's misfolded proteins. So a deficiency of exclusion zone water is a problem. So I like to say that the most efficient and effective thing to do is to just go for a 4-hour run in the sunshine every day. Because if you just do that, you get sunshine, makes exclusions of water, all that movement of water in the tissues. The fact that you're going to have to live something like 20% longer just to make up for all the suffering, that doesn't work. It's not sustainable. Nobody does that. And if they do, does that time come from their kids? Does it come from their work? Because it's not effective time. And if you love it and you're doing weekends, fine, more power to you. Start saving up for your knee replacement. But if you want to do this every day to get exclusion zone water, it's not going to happen. So my biohacking stack here at home, I do everything I can to improve this. We go to Upgrade Labs. We do all this. So red and infrared light, whole body vibration, moving up and down, doing a rebounder. All of those can influence it, and just going out in the sun for 20 minutes, right? All of these are beneficial, but we only have so much time. And if you're in Canada, there isn't even any sun half the year. So what do? You can just breathe it. And just like smoking or vaping or nebulizing are very effective ways to get things into your cells even though vaping's a really dumb idea. But you can nebulize glutathione. We all know this is a way to get medication in.
Yeah.
So you could try to drink exclusions of water, which I think helps, or you could breathe it. And then the results are actually stunning, and which is why I want to do this episode.
Yeah.
What do you see in studies when people spend a few minutes breathing air from a nano-V?
Well, I think the most interesting research relating to you is the metabolic testing that was done, and it's a group called Pinoy. We have wonderful metabolic testing equipment, and they could show that the VO2 max was significantly improved by 7.8% in one session, and the respiratory exchange ratio also 11% improvement. And then for metabolic function, the crossover point, which is burning carbs versus burning fats, is super important in weight management and aspects like that, also improved in one session.
So a 7.9% improvement, that was in VO2 max?
7.8 actually.
Oh, 7.8%.
We can round up to 8.
That was on VO2 max measurements, though.
Yes.
Okay, guys, a 12% improvement in VO2 max is equal to 2 years of additional expected lifespan. So you're getting, what, about 1.3 years, if my math is about right?
I'm not going to comment on that. That seems dicey to me.
Got it. Well, all I know from writing books on longevity and studying it for 25 years is that if you can increase VO2 max, you increase expected lifespan. Is it causative? Probably. Is it correlated? Yeah. So I feel really comfortable saying increase VO2 max to increase your longevity. Will it extend your life beyond the normal rate of aging? Probably not by itself, right? But what it does do is it supports having great energy, and you do other longevity therapies on top of it. So now you don't get degenerative diseases. You're highly functional. You look better. Your brain works better. Your metabolism burns fat better. What happens when people cross over about 50 to their fat burning?
They become way less effective, but they're metabolically less effective. That's at the heart of so much of this, all these various specialties in medicine. If you go right back to the heart of it, it's that metabolically we're not functioning well, and it shows up as all these different diseases.